The night I died, the last person I expected to see was the man everyone feared. He stood outside the emergency room in a perfectly tailored black suit, his white shirt stained with blood that wasn't his. His usually cold eyes were red, his hands trembling as if his entire world had shattered. "Save her," he begged the doctors for the 100th time. The powerful CEO, who had never bowed to anyone, was on his knees. I wanted to tell him not to cry. I wanted to tell him I was sorry, but I was already dead. For 28 years, I believed Adrian Hayes only wanted to control me. Every gift he bought, every rule he made, every jealous glance he threw at another man, I called it obsession. I hated him for following me, protecting me, and refusing to let me ruin my own life. So I ran. I ran straight into the arms of the man I thought was my true love. That decision destroyed everything. The charming boyfriend I trusted stole my family's company, emptied my savings, and disappeared with my best friend. My parents died heartbroken after losing everything. I spent years working 3 jobs, believing life couldn't become crueler. Then came the accident, a speeding truck, screeching tires, darkness. The last thing I heard before my heartbeat stopped was Adrian's broken voice calling my name. "I'd trade my life for yours. Diana, wake up. You're going to be late for your first day of college." A familiar voice echoed through the room. My eyes flew open. Sunlight streamed through pale blue curtains. A tiny teddy bear sat on the bookshelf beside my favorite novels. My old guitar leaned against the corner exactly where I'd left it years ago. My heart nearly stopped. This is my room." My hand shook as I grabbed my phone from the bedside table. September 3. 10 years earlier, I stared at the date until tears blurred my vision. I'm 18? I rushed to the mirror. The exhausted woman with tired eyes was gone. Instead, an 18-year-old girl stared back with bright skin, long chestnut hair, and hopeful blue eyes untouched by regret. I touched my face, warm, alive. I'm really back. The memories crashed over me like a tidal wave. My parents, the betrayal, the accident. Adrian, his tears, his voice. Everything felt painfully real. A knock sounded. "Diana?" my mother called gently. "Honey, are you all right?" "Mom." My chest tightened. I threw open the bedroom door before she could leave and wrapped my arms around her. "So tight," she laughed. "What's gotten into you?" I couldn't answer, because she had died 5 years after this day in my previous life. Yet here she was, warm, loving, alive. "I love you, Mom." She froze for a second before smiling. "I love you too, sweetheart." Tears rolled silently down my cheeks. This time, I would protect everyone. By the time I reached the university campus, my emotions had barely settled. Students hurried between buildings, laughing about classes and weekend plans. Everything looked exactly as I remembered, even the maple tree where I first met Ethan Carter, the handsome senior with a charming smile, the liar who would eventually destroy my life. Right on schedule, he walked toward me carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Diana, you're the freshman from orientation, right?" His smile was flawless once. That smile had made my heart race. Now it made my skin crawl. I bought an extra coffee. "Want one?" "No." He blinked. "Oh, maybe another time?" "There won't be another time." I walked past him without looking back. Behind me, I heard confused whispers. What happened? I thought she liked Ethan. She did, in another lifetime, not this one. As I turned the corner, someone grabbed my wrist. "Diana," I instinctively pulled away. It wasn't Ethan. It was my childhood friend, Lily. "You scared me," she laughed. "You've been acting weird today." "I've just realized some people aren't worth my time anymore." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" I smiled softly. "You'll understand one day." For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I chose peace instead of chasing someone who would never deserve it. That afternoon, the business school hosted a welcome banquet at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. Students whispered excitedly. "They say the Hayes Group CEO is attending." "No way. He's only 28 and already one of the richest men in the country." "I heard he's terrifying." My breathing slowed. Adrian Hayes. This was the first day I had ever seen him. In my previous life, I accidentally spilled wine on his suit. Instead of apologizing properly, I called him arrogant after he asked whether I was hurt. For years afterward, every meeting between us started with an argument. This time, everything would change. The ballroom doors opened. Silence spread across the room. A tall man stepped inside wearing a charcoal black suit that fit him perfectly. His sharp jawline, dark hair, and calm expression drew every eye toward him. He moved with effortless confidence, surrounded by executives who treated him with absolute respect. But I noticed something no one else did. His eyes, cold on the outside, lonely underneath. He scanned the room absent-mindedly. Then, our eyes met. Time stopped. For a split second, something impossible flickered across his face. Shock, confusion, recognition, as if some forgotten part of his soul had suddenly awakened. He stared at me longer than etiquette allowed. 1 heartbeat, 2, 3. The room faded away. Then someone behind me bumped my shoulder. A glass of sparkling juice slipped from my hand. It tipped toward Adrian's expensive suit, exactly like my previous life. Gasps filled the ballroom. I moved before anyone could react. Instead of freezing, I caught the glass with both hands. Only a few drops landed near his cuff. "I'm so sorry," I said sincerely. "I should have been more careful." The executives held their breath. Everyone expected the famous cold CEO to be furious. Instead, Adrian quietly accepted a handkerchief from his assistant. "It's all right." His deep voice was calm. "Were you injured?" The same question, the same concern, exactly as before. Only now I finally understood. He had never cared about the suit. He had been worried about me. A lump formed in my throat. "No," I whispered. "Thank you for asking." Something softened in his expression, almost invisible, but it was there. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I smiled at the man I had once misunderstood. Across the ballroom, Adrian looked at me with unreadable eyes, while his tightly clenched hand slowly relaxed at his side. Neither of us noticed the jealous gaze watching from the crowd. Ethan Carter had witnessed everything, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he suddenly felt like he was losing someone he had never truly possessed. The banquet should have ended like every other university event, with polite applause and students rushing to post photos online. Instead, the moment Adrian Hayes looked at me, the atmosphere shifted in a way no one could explain. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. This was only the beginning. In my previous life, I had spent years believing Adrian was cold, arrogant, and impossible to understand. Now that I knew the truth, every small detail carried a different meaning. As students lined up to greet the executives, whispers spread through the ballroom. "Mr. Hayes almost never attends university events. They say he canceled a billion-dollar meeting to come here." I wonder why. I already knew the answer, because years ago, this was the first time he had seen me. One careless meeting had quietly changed both of our lives. When my turn came, my heartbeat echoed in my ears. Adrian stood only a few feet away. Up close, he looked even more intimidating than I remembered. His tailored black suit fit perfectly. His expression remained unreadable, and yet there was an unusual warmth hidden in his dark eyes whenever they rested on me. He extended his hand. "Diana." He already knew my name. I blinked in surprise before gently shaking his hand. "Mr. Hayes." His hand was warm, firm, careful, not possessive, not controlling. Just careful. "It's nice to meet you." His lips curved almost invisibly. "I believe it is." Several professors exchanged puzzled looks. The famous CEO rarely smiled, yet he had just smiled at an ordinary freshman. After greeting the remaining students, Adrian prepared to leave. His assistant hurried beside him. "Sir, the board meeting begins in 40 minutes. "I know." Adrian stepped into the elevator. Just before the doors closed, he looked back. Our eyes met again. Then the elevator disappeared. That evening, I returned home emotionally exhausted. Dad was cooking dinner while Mom set the table. The smell of roasted chicken filled the kitchen. Warm, Perfect. Last time, I had ignored dinners like this. I was always too busy chasing Ethan or arguing with Adrian. Now every second felt priceless. Dad laughed as I stole a piece of chicken from the pan. You've been smiling all day. Have I? You look happier. I am. He smiled proudly. I hope college brings you good memories. This time. It would. The next morning, I arrived on campus earlier than usual. As I walked through the garden, someone called my name. Diana. Ethan jogged toward me, carrying another coffee. I think we got off on the wrong foot yesterday. I'm sure we did. He laughed awkwardly. I'd really like to know you. In another life, those words had made my heart race. Today they sounded rehearsed, calculated. I already know enough. He frowned. What does that mean? It means some people wear smiles like masks. For the first time since we'd met, confidence disappeared from his face. Before he could answer, a sleek, black luxury sedan stopped near the entrance. Students immediately turned toward it. No way. That's a Hayes Group car. What is their CEO doing here? The driver stepped out and opened the rear door. Adrian emerged, looking as composed as ever. He wasn't scheduled to visit the university today. Even the dean looked surprised. Adrian exchanged a few words with the faculty before his gaze found me almost instantly. My pulse quickened. He walked directly toward us. Ethan straightened his jacket, assuming the CEO wanted to speak with him. Instead, Adrian stopped in front of me. Miss Diana. Good morning. I happen to be nearby. Nearby? The Hayes Group headquarters was nearly 40 minutes away. I wanted to return something. He handed me a delicate silver bracelet. I stared at it in confusion. You dropped it yesterday. I recognized it immediately. In my previous life, I had lost that bracelet after the banquet and searched for it for weeks. Back then, Adrian had quietly kept it safe, waiting for the chance to return it. I had never known. Thank you. Our fingers brushed briefly as I accepted it. His expression softened. You should be more careful with things that matter. My chest tightened. He wasn't talking about the bracelet. He never had been. Before I could respond, his assistant approached. Sir, we're running late. Adrian nodded. I'll see you again. He left as quickly as he had arrived. The entire campus fell silent. Then the whispers exploded. Did the CEO really come all this way just to return a bracelet? Impossible. They looked like they already knew each other. Ethan watched the departing car with narrowed eyes. Something dark flashed across his face. Jealousy. That afternoon, Lily cornered me in the library. Okay. She folded her arms. You have to tell me what's going on. What do you mean? The richest bachelor in the country just drove across the city to return your bracelet. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't. She nearly laughed. Diana, half the city would faint if Adrian Hayes remembered their name. I smiled to myself. If only she knew, in another lifetime. He remembered everything about me, even the smallest things I had forgotten myself. The realization made my heart ache. How lonely must he have been? How many times had he loved me in silence while I misunderstood every act of kindness? I wasn't going to repeat that mistake. Not again. Late that evening, Adrian sat alone in the top-floor office of Hayes Group. The city lights stretched endlessly beyond the glass walls. His assistant entered quietly. Sir. Adrian didn't look away from the window. What is it? We've confirmed Miss Diana's background. Go on. Excellent academic record. No scandals. Very close to her parents. Volunteers on weekends at a local children's center. A faint smile appeared, exactly as he expected. His assistant hesitated. May I ask something? Adrian finally turned. What? You've never investigated anyone personally before. Silence filled the office. After several seconds, Adrian answered in a voice barely above a whisper. The moment I saw her, he paused, searching for words he couldn't explain. It felt like I had finally found someone I'd been missing for a lifetime. His assistant stood speechless. Meanwhile, across the city, Diana looked out her bedroom window at the stars, unaware that fate had already begun weaving their lives together once again. Neither of them noticed the shadow quietly watching from a parked car across the street. Ethan's smile was gone. Whatever opportunity he thought he had with Diana was slipping away. And he wasn't the kind of man who accepted losing. The first bouquet of white roses arrived 3 days later. There was no note, no sender's name. Only a small card with a single sentence written in elegant handwriting. Asterisk, congratulations on your first week of college. The girls in my dorm crowded around the flowers. Oh my gosh, these are imported roses. They must have cost a fortune. Who sent them? I smiled faintly. I already knew. Adrian never liked drawing attention to the things he did for me. Even in my previous life, he had helped me countless times without asking for credit. This time, I wasn't going to pretend I didn't notice. Saturday morning, I put on a simple cream-colored sweater and jeans before heading to the Children's Community Center, where I volunteered every weekend. In my previous life, volunteering had become one of the few places where I truly felt at peace. The children never cared about money, status, or appearances. They only cared about whether someone showed up. As I walked through the front gate, little Emma ran straight into my arms. Diana. She hugged me tightly. You came back. I promised I would. You always keep your promises. The innocent words made my eyes sting. Not always. In my last life, I had broken countless promises to my parents, to myself, and to Adrian. This life would be different. For the next several hours, we painted pictures, helped with homework, and played games in the courtyard. Laughter echoed through the building. Watching the children smile reminded me why kindness mattered. Near lunchtime, the center's director looked worried while checking her phone. What's wrong? I asked. She sighed. Our food supplier canceled at the last minute. We don't have enough lunch for everyone. How many children? Almost 80. I looked around the room. The children were laughing, completely unaware of the problem. There has to be another way. The director forced a smile. I'll figure something out. Just then, several delivery trucks pulled into the parking lot. Everyone turned toward the windows. Workers in matching uniforms began unloading boxes filled with fresh fruit, vegetables, milk, sandwiches, juice, and enough groceries to feed the center for weeks. The director hurried outside. Excuse me, are you sure this is the right address? The delivery manager checked his paperwork. Yes. Who ordered all this? I'm afraid I can't say. He handed her a receipt. The donor requested complete privacy. I didn't need to read the name. I already knew. Only one person always solved problems before anyone had to ask. Only one person believed kindness should stay anonymous. As the children cheered over the unexpected feast, I quietly slipped outside. Across the street, a familiar black luxury sedan was parked beneath a row of maple trees. The tinted rear window lowered slightly. Adrian sat inside. Our eyes met. He looked almost embarrassed that I had discovered him. I walked across the street before I could lose my courage. The driver immediately stepped aside. Adrian opened the car door. You shouldn't be standing outside, he said softly. You'll catch too much sun. I couldn't help smiling. You donated everything. It wasn't much. It was enough to feed 80 children. They deserve better than disappointment. I looked at him for several quiet seconds. In my previous life, I had called him controlling whenever he appeared unexpectedly. Now I realized something important. He never showed up to interfere. He showed up because he cared. Thank you. His expression softened. You don't have to thank me. I do. No. He looked directly into my eyes. If anyone deserves thanks, it's you. I blinked. For what? You've volunteered here every weekend for years. I stared at him in surprise. You knew? I know more about you than you realize. There was no arrogance in his voice, only quiet admiration. For some reason, that made my heart beat even faster. As they talked, neither of them noticed someone taking photographs from the opposite side of the street. Mick. 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 Ethan lowered his expensive camera with a satisfied smile. So, he whispered to himself, the mighty Adrian Hayes really likes her. His eyes darkened. This just became interesting. The following Monday, social media exploded. Anonymous photos of Diana standing beside Adrian's luxury car spread across campus within hours. The captions were cruel. Freshman secretly dating billionaire CEO? How did an ordinary student attract the richest man in the city? Money really changes everything. Students whispered whenever I walked past. Some stared openly. Others pretended not to notice. Lily slammed her phone onto the cafeteria table. This is ridiculous. It's okay. No, it's not. They don't know the truth. They never ask for it. I smiled gently. Then we won't waste our energy proving anything. She looked at me in disbelief. Aren't you angry? I've learned something. What? You don't have to answer every rumor. Before Lily could respond, the cafeteria television switched to a live business interview. The host smiled at the camera. Today, we're joined by Hayes Group CEO Adrian Hayes. The entire room fell silent. Even the students gossiping about me looked up. The interviewer asked several questions about business before smiling knowingly. Mr. Hayes, one final question. There are rumors connecting you to a university student. Would you like to comment? The room became completely quiet. I held my breath. Adrian looked calmly into the camera. I generally ignore rumors. The interviewer nodded, but this one has attracted national attention. After a brief pause, Adrian answered, I won't discuss someone's private life without their permission. The interviewer smiled awkwardly. So the rumors are false? Adrian's expression remained composed. What is false, he said evenly, is the assumption that success gives anyone the right to invade another person's dignity. Silence filled the studio, and if someone chooses kindness over attention, his voice became gentler. Perhaps the world should learn to protect people like that instead of judging them. He ended the interview there. Across the cafeteria, every student stared at the television in stunned silence. No denial, no confirmation, only respect. For the first time, I understood something that had taken me an entire lifetime to see. Adrian wasn't protecting his own reputation. He was protecting mine. And somewhere in the crowd, Ethan slowly clenched his fists. The game he thought he was controlling was slipping further from his hands. For the first time in years, he realized he wasn't competing with an ordinary man. He was competing with someone who would quietly move the entire world just to keep one woman from getting hurt. The interview changed everything. By the next morning, the cruel comments online had begun to disappear. News outlets praised Adrian Hayes for defending privacy instead of fueling gossip, while thousands of people criticized those who had spread the rumors. Yet I knew the storm wasn't over. People like Ethan never gave up after one failed attempt. They simply looked for another weakness. Life on campus slowly returned to normal. Midterm exams were only 2 weeks away, and the library stayed crowded from morning until midnight. I buried myself in textbooks, determined to build a future I could be proud of. In my previous life, I had wasted countless opportunities because I was too distracted by chasing the wrong people. This time, my dreams came first. One rainy evening, I was reviewing economics notes when Lily dropped into the seat across from me. I need coffee, she groaned. So do I. I'll buy some. I'll come with you. The rain had become heavier by the time we reached the campus cafe. Students packed the small shop, escaping the cold weather. While waiting in line, I noticed a familiar face near the window. Mrs. Wilson, one of the elderly volunteers from the Children's Center. She looked anxious as she searched through her purse. I know I had my wallet. The cashier smiled politely. It's all right, ma'am. You can come back later. Mrs. Wilson's cheeks turned red. I'm so sorry. Without hesitation, I stepped forward. I'll pay. She turned toward me. Oh, Diana, you don't have to. I want to. It's only coffee. I paid for her drink and lunch before she could argue, her eyes filled with gratitude. You always think of others. I smiled. Someone once taught me that kindness grows when it's shared. She squeezed my hand. I hope life returns that kindness to you. I didn't realize someone had quietly witnessed the entire moment. Across the cafe, Adrian sat in a private corner reviewing business documents with two executives. He had arrived for an investment meeting before recognizing the familiar voice. His assistant leaned closer. "Sir." Adrian never looked away from me. I saw. There was unmistakable pride in his eyes. Not because I had spent money, but because I had helped someone without expecting anything in return. Exactly as I always had. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. By then, Lily and I had already left. As Adrian walked outside, he noticed an elderly man struggling to push a broken delivery cart through the rain. Before his assistant could react, Adrian removed his expensive suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and helped the man move the heavy cart beneath a nearby shelter. The old man smiled gratefully. "Thank you, young man." "It was nothing." His assistant couldn't hide his surprise. "You usually let security handle situations like this." Adrian looked toward the direction I had walked. "Someone reminded me today," he said quietly. "That kindness should never depend on status." A week later, exam results were posted. Students crowded around the bulletin boards. "No way!" Diana ranked first. "She beat every senior." Lily nearly screamed as she hugged me. "I knew you'd do it," I laughed. "It was only one exam. It was every subject." As classmates congratulated me, Ethan approached with his usual charming smile. "Congratulations. Thank you." I was thinking. He hesitated. "We could celebrate together." "No." He forced a laugh. "You didn't even let me finish. You didn't need to." His smile stiffened. "You're still avoiding me. I'm choosing peace. I've never done anything to hurt you." For a brief moment, memories flashed through my mind. My parents signing away their company. My best friend crying after realizing Ethan had manipulated her too. Hospital bills. Lonely nights. The sound of tires before the accident. I took a slow breath. "Not yet." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means people reveal themselves through their choices." Before he could answer, applause echoed through the hallway. The dean entered with several professors. "Congratulations to our highest-ranking student." The professors handed me a certificate. Then the dean smiled. "I have one more surprise." He gestured toward the entrance. A familiar figure walked inside. Adrian Hayes. The entire hallway fell silent. Students immediately straightened their uniforms. The dean continued proudly. "Hayes Group has established a new scholarship for students who demonstrate both academic excellence and community service." Everyone applauded. The first recipient, the dean smiled warmly at me, "is Diana." I stood frozen. "Me?" The dean handed me a beautifully engraved certificate. "This scholarship recognizes not only your grades, but also your volunteer work and character." Tears threatened to fall. In my previous life, I had never received this opportunity because I had stopped volunteering after becoming obsessed with Ethan. Changing one decision had changed my entire future. As cameras flashed, Adrian stepped forward. He presented the scholarship plaque personally. Our hands met for only a second. His voice was low enough that only I could hear. "You earned this." You don't need to thank me." His eyes held quiet certainty. "Keep becoming the person you're meant to be." My heart trembled. He had never tried to change me. He had only wanted me to become the best version of myself. The ceremony ended with thunderous applause. Most students admired the moment. Some envied it. Only Ethan watched with growing panic. The scholarship had ruined another one of his plans. He had intended to become the campus hero by sponsoring charity events and winning Diana's admiration. Now everyone was talking about her instead. As the crowd dispersed, Ethan slipped into an empty classroom and pulled out his phone. "I need everything you can find on Adrian Hayes." The person on the other end asked why. Ethan's expression darkened. "Because if I can't separate Diana from him." He paused before speaking coldly. "I'll destroy the reason she trusts him." Outside, unaware of the danger quietly taking shape, Diana walked beneath the golden autumn leaves with the scholarship certificate held close to her heart. For the first time since returning to 18, she wasn't just changing the future. She was beginning to believe she deserved the happiness waiting for her. The scholarship ceremony made Diana's name known across the entire university. Students who had never spoken to her before now greeted her in the hallways. Professors praised her dedication, and the children at the community center proudly told everyone that their big sister had won an award. Life finally felt peaceful, but peace had a way of making hidden enemies impatient. Monday morning began with a surprise. Diana, the department secretary hurried toward her. Dean Parker would like to see you. Diana wondered if she had forgotten some paperwork. When she arrived at the dean's office, she found several professors already waiting. The dean smiled warmly. Congratulations once again. Thank you, Professor. We've selected 5 outstanding students to represent the university at next month's Young Business Leaders Forum. Diana's eyes widened. The international conference? The dean nodded. Executives from around the world will attend. It's an incredible opportunity. We unanimously chose you. Her heart raced. In her previous life, she had never even qualified. Instead, she had skipped classes to travel with Ethan. Now fate had rewritten her future completely. I'd be honored. Excellent. The dean handed her a folder. One of the keynote speakers happens to be Adrian Hayes. She smiled without realizing it. Across the city, Adrian was reviewing presentations inside Hayes Group headquarters. His assistant entered. Sir, what is it? The university finalized the student delegates. Adrian closed the report he had been reading, and Miss Diana was selected. A quiet smile appeared. I expected nothing less. The assistant hesitated. There's something else. What? Ethan Carter has been making unusual inquiries. Adrian's eyes sharpened instantly. What kind of inquiries? He hired a private investigator. The room fell silent. He requested information about your schedule, your personal life, and especially your connection to Miss Diana. Adrian slowly stood. His calm expression disappeared. Increased security around her. Already done. Without letting her notice. Yes, sir. After a long silence, Adrian looked out across the city skyline. I won't let history repeat itself. His assistant frowned slightly. History? He wasn't sure why his boss had chosen those words. That afternoon, Diana returned to the children's center. The kids were preparing for a weekend charity fair. Emma tugged on Diana's sleeve. Will you help me paint? Of course! Together they painted colorful paper stars, while the younger children laughed around them. Near the entrance, a little boy named Noah suddenly burst into tears. My airplane, the cardboard airplane he had spent days building, had been crushed after another child accidentally stepped on it. Noah cried so hard that several volunteers rushed over. It took me all week. Diana knelt beside him. It's okay. No, it isn't. I wanted to show my mom. She gently picked up the broken pieces. Then let's make one that's even better. For the next hour, Diana sat on the floor with Noah, cutting cardboard, painting wings, and decorating the airplane with bright blue stars. Soon other children joined them. The room filled with laughter again. When the airplane was finally finished, it looked even more beautiful than the first one. Noah hugged her tightly. It's perfect! You made it! We made it! From the doorway, someone quietly watched the scene. Adrian. He had stopped by to discuss another anonymous donation with the center director. Instead, he found himself unable to look away from Diana. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't performing kindness. She simply cared. The director smiled knowingly. She's been like that since she first volunteered. Adrian's voice was barely above a whisper. I know. I've never met anyone quite like her. Neither have I. When Diana finished helping the children, she walked outside carrying a small box of leftover art supplies. She nearly bumped into Adrian. Oh, I'm sorry. He reached out instinctively to steady the box before it slipped from her hands. colorful crayons scattered across the sidewalk anyway. The two of them laughed softly. I guess we're both clumsy today, Diana said. Without a word, Adrian knelt on the pavement and began picking up crayons. Several passing employees froze. The billionaire CEO, kneeling on the sidewalk, collecting crayons. One executive whispered, "Should we help?" His assistant smiled. No. Why not? Because right now, he looked toward Adrian. He doesn't want to be treated like a CEO. When the last crayon had been collected, Diana smiled. Thank you. Adrian handed her the box. I should be thanking you. For what? For reminding me what really matters. She looked at him curiously. You already knew. I thought I did. He paused. But watching you, his expression softened, makes me want to become a better man. Diana felt her cheeks grow warm. No expensive gift, no grand gesture, had ever touched her heart as deeply as those simple words. Before either of them could say anything else, Adrian's phone rang. His assistant answered first. His expression changed immediately. Sir, what happened? We've confirmed it. Confirmed what? Ethan Carter has begun contacting several online media companies. Diana noticed Adrian's face become serious. Is everything all right? He slipped the phone back into his pocket and smiled reassuringly. Everything's fine. She wasn't completely convinced. After Adrian left, his assistant remained behind for a moment. He looked toward Diana with quiet respect. You may not realize it, he said gently, but you've changed him. Before she could ask what he meant, he followed Adrian to the waiting car. Across the street, hidden behind the window of a small cafe, Ethan lowered a pair of binoculars. His jaw tightened as he watched Diana smiling after Adrian's departure. They're getting closer, he whispered coldly. I've been patient long enough. He opened a folder filled with photographs, financial records, and carefully edited screenshots designed to look convincing. A slow smile spread across his face. If the truth can't separate them, he closed the folder. Then a lie will. Far away, dark clouds slowly gathered over the evening sky. While neither Diana nor Adrian realized that the greatest test of their growing trust was about to begin, the lies appeared online before sunrise. By the time Diana woke up, her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Message after message flooded her screen. Lily, don't believe anything you see online. Call me. Sweetheart, are you okay? Unknown number. So this is how you earned your scholarship? Her heart sank. She opened the first headline. University star secretly using CEO to secure her future? Another article claimed she had intentionally approached Adrian for money. Another insisted the scholarship had been bought. Dozens of edited photographs made ordinary encounters look like secret dates. Every image told a story that had never happened. Her hands trembled. So, this is his plan. In her previous life, Ethan had destroyed people the same way, not with fists, with rumors, with carefully crafted lies that sounded believable enough to spread. But this time, she wasn't the frightened 18-year-old who believed silence meant defeat. By the time Diana reached campus, students had already gathered in small groups. Some looked sympathetic. Others whispered as she walked by. Lily rushed over. I've been trying to reach you. I'm okay. No, you're not. I will be. Lily stared at her in disbelief. How are you this calm? Diana looked at the headlines one last time before locking her phone. Because I already know who I am. If I know the truth, she smiled gently, I won't let someone else's lies define me. Lily hugged her tightly. I wish everyone thought like you. Across the city, Hayes Group headquarters was unusually tense. The executive meeting had barely begun when Adrian placed a tablet on the conference table. Every director immediately recognized the headlines. One executive spoke carefully. Sir, should we issue a statement? Another nodded. The media is waiting. Adrian looked around the room. His voice remained calm. Find the original source. It came from several anonymous accounts. They're connected. His head of cybersecurity replied, We're already tracing them. Adrian stood. I don't care how much it costs. I want every fabricated article removed. And the people responsible? His eyes turned ice cold. They'll answer for every lie. The room fell silent. Everyone knew that tone. It was the voice Adrian used when someone threatened people under his protection. Meanwhile, Ethan sat comfortably inside a downtown cafe, scrolling through the growing chaos online. He smiled. Now let's see how long your perfect image survives. His phone rang. The articles are everywhere. Excellent. But, what? Something strange is happening. The fake posts are disappearing. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? They're being reported faster than we can repost them. His smile faded. At the university, Diana finished class and quietly walked toward the library. Halfway there, an elderly janitor struggled to lift several heavy boxes filled with donated books. Students hurried past without noticing. Without hesitation, Diana set down her backpack. Let me help. Oh dear, you don't have to. I'd like to. Together they carried every box upstairs. The old man smiled gratefully. You're the only student who stopped. It only took a few minutes. You remind me of my granddaughter. Diana smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. Unbeknownst to her, a local reporter had witnessed the entire scene. He had originally come to interview students about the online scandal. Instead, he found the girl at the center of the rumors quietly helping someone without realizing anyone was watching. He lowered his camera. Sometimes actions told a more honest story than headlines ever could. That evening, Adrian requested a private meeting with the university president. Inside the office, several administrators looked uneasy. We've reviewed the allegations. The president sighed. So have we. Do you believe them? The older man answered immediately. No, neither do I. The president smiled. In 4 years of volunteering, Miss Diana has never asked for recognition. Every teacher speaks highly of her. The scholarship committee reached its decision weeks before anyone even knew you had met her. Adrian nodded. I expected as much. The president leaned forward. May I ask you something? Go ahead. Why are you doing all this? For a long moment, Adrian said nothing. Then he looked through the office window toward the campus. Because. His voice softened. Some people spend their lives protecting everyone else. They deserve someone willing to protect them. The president smiled quietly. I think she's very fortunate. Adrian shook his head. No, I'm the fortunate one. That same evening, Diana returned home exhausted. She found her father repairing an old wooden chair in the garage. He looked up and smiled. You've had a hard day. She nodded. Without asking questions, he handed her a paintbrush. Help me finish this. Together they sanded the wood, painted the legs, and tightened the screws. Neither of them talked about the rumors. Neither of them mentioned the headlines. For an hour, they simply worked side by side. When the chair was finished, her father smiled proudly. See? What? No matter how damaged something looks, he gently tested the chair. If the foundation is strong, it can stand again. Diana looked at the freshly painted chair. Then she smiled through the tears she had been holding back all day. I understand. Late that night, Adrian received a message from his cybersecurity director. We've traced the accounts. Every one of them leads back to Ethan Carter. Adrian closed the report slowly. His expression revealed nothing, but everyone in the room felt the sudden drop in temperature. He picked up his phone. Arrange a meeting. His assistant nodded. With the legal team? Adrian looked toward the city lights outside. No, with Ethan. The assistant blinked. Alone? Yes. What if he refuses? Adrian's eyes never left the window. He won't. Tomorrow. His voice was calm, controlled, and impossible to read. He'll learn that there are consequences for trying to destroy an innocent person. Miles away, Ethan celebrated what he believed was his greatest victory. He had no idea that by sunrise, he would come face to face with the one man he had underestimated from the very beginning. Ethan Carter was halfway through breakfast when his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. He almost ignored it. Mr. Carter? Speaking. This is the executive office of Hayes Group. His confident smile faded. Our chairman would like to meet with you. Ethan forced himself to sound calm. I'm afraid I'm busy. You'll find time. The caller's voice remained polite. The meeting is at 10 o'clock. The line disconnected. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. At exactly 10 o'clock, he stepped into the towering glass headquarters of Hayes Group. The building radiated power. Employees walked briskly through the marble lobby, and security officers greeted him with polite but unreadable expressions. He was escorted to the top floor. The elevator doors opened. Silence greeted him. The assistant led him into a spacious office overlooking the city skyline. Adrian Hayes stood by the window with one hand in his pocket. He didn't turn around immediately. You wanted to see me? Ethan asked. Trying to sound relaxed, Adrian slowly faced him. Sit. I'd rather stand. As you wish. The room fell quiet. After several seconds, Adrian placed a thick folder on the desk. What is this? Open it. Ethan hesitated before flipping through the pages. His face slowly lost all color. Bank transfers, pawn records, screenshots, payments made to anonymous bloggers, contracts with online marketing companies. Every fabricated article, every fake account, every transaction. It was all there, impossible to deny. You've worked very hard. Adrian's voice remained calm, creating lies. Ethan swallowed nervously. You can't prove. I already have. Adrian interrupted him. The evidence has been verified by independent investigators. He slid another document across the desk. And these? Ethan looked down. Signed witness statements. Several people he had hired had confessed everything. His hands began to shake. What do you want? Adrian answered without hesitation. The truth. No. Adrian stepped closer. I want you to tell me why. Ethan looked away. You wouldn't understand. Try me. Silence filled the office. Finally, Ethan laughed bitterly. Do you know what it's like? What? To spend years trying to become successful, only to have everyone admire someone else? Adrian didn't respond. 18-year-old Diana walks into a room, and suddenly professors praise her. Children adore her. People trust her. And then, he looked directly at Adrian. The most powerful man in the country chooses her. How is that fair? Adrian studied him quietly. Then he spoke. You think people admire Diana because of luck. They don't. They admire her because she gives without asking for anything back. You only notice what she receives. I notice what she gives. Ethan clenched his fists. You love her. For the first time, Adrian didn't deny it. Yes. One simple word. No hesitation, no embarrassment, only honesty. I do. The office became completely silent. I loved her before she ever noticed me. I'll continue loving her even if she never returns those feelings. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. You're serious. I've never been more serious. Adrian's expression hardened. But understand something clearly. If this had only hurt me, I wouldn't have called you here. He placed both hands on the desk. But you tried to destroy her reputation. You made her parents worry. You attacked someone who has never harmed you. His voice grew colder. I won't allow that. Ethan lowered his eyes. For the first time, he realized he hadn't lost because Adrian was richer. He had lost because Adrian genuinely cared about someone besides himself. Across town, Diana knew nothing about the meeting. She spent the afternoon helping prepare the community center's annual charity fair. Colorful booths filled the playground. Children laughed while decorating cookies and painting handmade gifts. Emma tugged on Diana's sleeve. Will Mr. Adrian come today? Diana blinked. Why do you ask? He smiles whenever he sees you. Several volunteers laughed softly. Even Diana couldn't hide her blush. I don't know if he'll come. Just then, a black luxury sedan stopped outside the center. The children immediately cheered. He came. Adrian stepped out carrying several large boxes. The center director smiled warmly. You really didn't have to bring all this. They're only books. Only books? The boxes contained hundreds of beautifully illustrated children's books from around the world. The children surrounded him excitedly. Instead of keeping his distance, Adrian sat cross-legged on the floor beside them. He helped one little boy open a picture book. Another little girl climbed into his lap to show him her drawing. Deanna watched from across the room. The cold, untouchable CEO described by magazines no longer existed. This man was patient, gentle akin. Their eyes met. Adrian smiled. A real smile. Not the polite smile reserved for business meetings. One meant only for her. Her heart skipped. She realized something that frightened her. The admiration she felt for him was quietly becoming something much deeper. Neither of them noticed Ethan standing outside the center's front gate. He had followed Adrian there after leaving Hayes' group. Through the glass doors, he watched the children laughing around Diana and Adrian. For the first time, doubt crept into his heart. He had spent years believing kindness was weakness, yet the happiest people in the room had gathered around the two kindest hearts. Still, his pride refused to surrender. As he turned to leave, he whispered under his breath, "This isn't over." But for the first time, even he wasn't sure whether he believed his own words. The charity fair ended just as the sun dipped below the horizon. Parents arrived one by one to pick up their children. Their arms soon filled with handmade crafts, colorful drawings, and stacks of storybooks. Laughter echoed across the playground. For Diana, it felt like the happiest afternoon she had experienced in 2 lifetimes. As she helped fold tables, Emma ran over and tugged on her sleeve. "Big sister Diana." "Yes?" The little girl pointed toward Adrian, who was quietly loading empty boxes into his car. "Do you like Mr. Adrian?" Diana almost dropped the box in her hands. "What?" Emma giggled. "My mommy says people smile differently when they're with someone special." Several volunteers overheard the conversation and laughed. Diana's cheeks turned bright red. Before she could answer, Adrian walked over. "What's everyone laughing about?" Emma proudly placed her tiny hands on her hips. "I asked Big Sister if she likes you." The entire playground became silent. Even Adrian looked momentarily surprised. Diana wished the ground would open beneath her feet. Emma looked back and forth between them. "Well?" Adrian crouched until he was eye level with the little girl. "That's a difficult question." "Why?" "Because." He glanced at Diana with gentle eyes. "Some answers shouldn't be rushed." His calm response made Diana's heartbeat race even faster. Emma pouted. "Adults are complicated. They usually are." Everyone burst into laughter. The awkward moment disappeared. But Diana couldn't stop thinking about his words. Some answers shouldn't be rushed. That evening, Adrian insisted on driving Diana home. "It's getting late. I can take the bus." "I know, but I'd rather make sure you arrive safely." She wanted to refuse. Instead, she quietly nodded. The city lights reflected across the windshield as they drove through peaceful streets. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Diana broke the silence. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why are you always helping me?" Adrian kept his eyes on the road. "Do you really want the answer?" "Yes," he smiled faintly. "Because every time I see you," he paused, "I feel like protecting you comes as naturally as breathing." Diana looked out the window, trying to hide the tears gathering in her eyes. She knew exactly why those words hurt so much. Because in her previous life, he had protected her until his very last breath. And she had never thanked him. The next morning, the university announced an unexpected volunteer program. Students would spend the weekend renovating an old retirement home that had suffered storm damage. Lily excitedly signed up. "So, are you coming?" "Of course." "What about Mr. Famous CEO?" Diana laughed. "I doubt he has time to paint walls." Neither of them knew that Hayes Group had quietly become the project's largest sponsor. Saturday arrived with bright blue skies. More than 100 students gathered outside the retirement home, carrying paintbrushes, cleaning supplies, and gardening tools. The building looked worn but hopeful. Diana spent the morning repainting bedrooms alongside several elderly residents. One grandmother smiled as Diana carefully brushed fresh paint across the windows. My granddaughter lives overseas. I'm sure she misses you. I hope so. Diana squeezed her hand gently. I'm certain she does. Outside, another group worked in the garden. Adrian had arrived early with dozens of Hayes Group employees. Instead of standing apart and giving instructions, he rolled up his sleeves and planted flowers beside everyone else. Workers from different companies stared in disbelief. Their billionaire CEO was covered in soil, and he looked completely content. An elderly veteran approached Adrian while leaning on a cane. You don't look like a businessman today. Adrian smiled. What do I look like? Someone raised properly. The old man laughed warmly. Your parents would be proud. For a brief second, sadness crossed Adrian's face. They taught me that success means very little if you forget how to serve others. Nearby, Diana overheard every word. Her heart warmed. So that was where his kindness came from. Not wealth, not power. Family. Just after lunch, dark clouds rolled across the sky. A strong wind swept through the retirement home's courtyard. Without warning, part of an old wooden storage shed collapsed. Diana, someone shouted. She turned just in time to see heavy wooden beams crashing toward an elderly gardener who couldn't move fast enough. Without thinking, Diana ran. She pushed the old man out of the way. The falling beam struck her shoulder instead. Pain shot through her body. She stumbled backward. Before she could hit the ground, two strong arms caught her. Careful. Adrian, his face had turned pale. Diana, I'm okay. No. His voice shook for the first time. You're hurt. Blood stained the sleeve of her shirt where the rough wood had scraped her shoulder. It doesn't hurt much. He looked at the injury before closing his eyes briefly. You always protect everyone else. She smiled weakly. They needed help. So did you. The ambulance arrived within minutes. Although the paramedics assured everyone it was only a deep cut and heavy bruising, Adrian refused to leave her side. Inside the ambulance, he sat beside her in complete silence. Only after several minutes did he quietly speak. When I thought that beam might... His voice caught. He couldn't finish the sentence. Diana reached out carefully. Her fingers gently touched the back of his hand. I'm all right. He looked down at their hands, then slowly turned his palm upward, allowing her fingers to rest inside his. Neither of them pulled away. Outside the ambulance window, rain began to fall softly over the city. For the first time since being reborn, Diana allowed herself to hold Adrian's hand. And for the first time, Adrian let himself believe that perhaps fate was finally giving him a second chance. Neither of them noticed a reporter standing outside the retirement home. His camera had captured everything. Not scandal, not gossip, but one unforgettable moment. A young woman risking herself to save a stranger, and the powerful CEO whose terrified expression revealed just how deeply he loved her. The photograph spread across the country within hours. Unlike the false rumors from weeks before, this picture carried no lies. It showed Diana shielding an elderly man from the collapsing wooden beams while Adrian held her tightly, his fear impossible to hide. The headline simply read, Kindness has a face. Asterisk. People who had once doubted Diana now praised her courage. The university publicly honored every volunteer who had helped at the retirement home, and the elderly residents shared heartfelt stories about the young woman who had treated them like family. But Diana cared less about the headlines than the familiar figure sitting beside her hospital bed. Adrian had barely left her side since she was admitted. You should go home, Diana said softly. You haven't slept. I'm not tired. You've been here all night. I know. She smiled helplessly. You're impossible. A faint smile appeared on Adrian's face. So I've been told. Just then, the doctor entered with Diana's test results. The injury looks worse than it is. Everyone let out a quiet sigh of relief. She'll need a few weeks of rest, but she'll make a full recovery. After thanking the doctor, Adrian finally relaxed for the first time since the accident. Later that afternoon, Diana's parents arrived carrying homemade soup. Her mother looked at Adrian with grateful eyes. "Thank you for staying with our daughter." Adrian stood respectfully. "I didn't do much. You did more than enough." Her father walked over and placed a hand on Adrian's shoulder. "She has always tried to take care of everyone else." He smiled warmly. "It's nice knowing someone wants to take care of her." Adrian lowered his head slightly. "I always will." Diana's heart skipped. Her parents exchanged knowing smiles before quietly leaving the room to give them privacy. Silence settled between them. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the hospital window. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Finally, Diana looked at him. "I remember something." Adrian frowned slightly. "What?" "I used to think you wanted to control my life." His eyes dimmed. "I know. I was wrong." He remained silent. "I misunderstood every act of kindness. I thought your concern was possessiveness. I thought your protection meant you didn't trust me." Tears gathered in her eyes. "I never stopped to ask why." Adrian gently took her hand. "You don't have to apologize." "But I want to." She smiled through her tears. "I wasted so much time." He squeezed her hand gently. "We still have time." Those 4 words shattered the wall around her heart. She could no longer hide the truth. "Adrian?" "Yes? I've been given something most people never receive." He waited quietly. A second chance. His breathing slowed. And this time, she looked directly into his eyes. "I don't want to spend another day pretending I don't know how much you care." His heartbeat thundered in his chest. "I like you." She laughed softly through her tears. "No. I think I've fallen in love with you." For a brief second, the powerful CEO who could negotiate billion-dollar contracts seemed completely speechless. "You." His voice was barely audible. "Are you certain?" She nodded. "I've never been more certain." He closed his eyes, overcome by emotion. When he opened them again, they were shining. "I've loved you for longer than you can imagine." He leaned forward carefully. "May I?" Diana smiled. Instead of answering with words, she gently closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was soft, pawnut, filled with every missed opportunity, every misunderstanding, and every unspoken feeling they had carried for far too long. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "I promise you something." "What is it?" "I'll never stop choosing you, and I'll never take your love for granted again." 1 year later, the community center had expanded into a larger building, funded jointly by Hayes Group and generous donors inspired by Diana's story. Children filled every classroom with laughter. The retirement home had been completely renovated. The elderly residents often joked that Diana and Adrian had become their favorite visitors. Diana had finished her first year at the top of her class, while continuing her volunteer work every weekend. Adrian still drove her to the center whenever their schedules allowed. He never tried to change who she was. Instead, he quietly supported every dream she chased. One warm spring afternoon, the children gathered in the garden for a picnic. Emma smiled mischievously. "Big sister Diana." "Yes? When are you going to marry Mr. Adrian?" Everyone burst into laughter. Even Adrian couldn't hide his smile. He looked at Diana with the same gentle eyes that had first met hers at the university banquet. Only this time, she didn't look away. She slipped her hand into his. "I think," she said with a bright smile, "he should ask first." The children immediately began cheering. Adrian laughed before reaching into his jacket pocket. To Diana's complete surprise, he knelt on one knee beneath the blooming cherry blossoms. He opened a small velvet box. Inside rested a simple, elegant diamond ring. "Diana." His voice was calm, but his eyes were full of emotion. "In every future I can imagine, I only want one person beside me. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes once more. This time, they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of happiness. "Yes." The children erupted into excited cheers. Parents applauded. The elderly residents wiped away happy tears. As Adrian placed the ring on her finger, Diana looked toward the bright blue sky. In another lifetime, she had misunderstood the greatest love she would ever receive. But fate had given her one impossible gift: a second chance. And this time, she chose the man who had quietly loved her all along. Together, hand in hand, they walked toward a future filled not with regret, but with laughter, kindness, and a love that neither time nor fate could ever separate. Like, subscribe, and support my channel. I really need your support. If you enjoy my video, please share it and leave your feedback in the comments.